The place card at table 2 said Nanny in gold script. No last name. No seat for me, just a folded lie polished enough to pass for decor. I stood there so still I could hear the ice settling in the water glasses. A server hovered, confused, like maybe I'd taken a wrong turn somewhere between the valet and dignity. Staff eats in the service lounge, Ethan's mother said lightly, as if she were offering helpful directions to the restroom. Her diamond tennis bracelet caught the uplighting, little stars applauding. Across the table, Ethan didn't look up. He tipped his champagne flute toward his partners from Atlas Freight, the logistics startup that had made him insufferable after Series C. No drama tonight, okay, he said without meeting my eyes. It's Kate's night. Then why am I labeled help? I asked. Quiet. Level. He finally glanced over, a practiced smile that landed short of kind. It's a joke, Viv. You know, because you're always organizing. He wiggled his fingers like air quotes should make it funny. Mom's sense of humor. Food is for family, his mother added, exactly as if she were gifting me wisdom. We'll make sure a plate gets sent back. I slid my wedding ring off. The diamond was small by Westlake standards and exactly the size I'd asked for. Something I could wear while chopping onions and building spreadsheets at 2 a.m. The ring clicked against fine china with a sound that traveled farther than any of us expected. If I'm staff, I said, steady as the linen, then I'm not your wife. Ethan's grin wavered, confusion rippling across his face like wind tugging at a flag. Then embarrassment. Then annoyance, the one he saved for delays and people who didn't return his emails in under 5 minutes. Viv, he hissed, half laughing for the audience now tuned in, don't do this here. But here was where they'd chosen to do it to me. I left the ring by his water glass, a tiny moon beside a lot of borrowed stars, and walked out of the ballroom with my clutch and my spine. The humiliation started hours earlier, technically days before, if I count the Wednesday call Ethan didn't know I heard. He was in our bedroom with the door mostly shut. I was in the hall, hugging a laundry basket and debating whether to wake him tomorrow at 5:45 like always to make coffee before my client call with a food bank in Lubbock. She needs to learn her lane, he said, voice low. It's a restructure hobby. She plays with spreadsheets while real companies move freight. A pause. Then a chuckle I could picture perfectly, chin up, teeth out, the charm that funders kept mistaking for substance. You'll love it, Mom. Wait till Saturday. I stood there, fingers whitening around cotton towels I'd folded into neat thirds because he preferred that over halves. His words didn't sting so much as confirm the ache I'd been medicating with competence. I set the basket down, walked to my office, the spare bedroom with 2 monitors and a view of the neighbor's crepe myrtle, and opened a folder on my desktop titled, Insurance. 7 months of quiet math lived there. Vendor invoices that made no operational sense. Pilot program fees paid to Shell LLCs with addresses that matched Ethan's high school friend's co-working mailbox. Fuel rebates that hit the wrong ledger for 3 consecutive quarters. Atlas Freight had a clean brand, iconography of speed in cobalt and white, a young teen who said solve when they meant ship. But the guts were messy, and messy is where I live. I am not a corporate wife. I am a fixer for hire. Small clinics, food banks, family-owned warehouses, the kinds of places that can't afford a Big Four team but also can't afford to die. Last month, I'd cut spoilage by 28% at Central Plains Pantry by changing their delivery windows and swapping their last-mile partner. The month before, I renegotiated a cold chain contract and saved a children's clinic $140,000 a year without laying off a single nurse. Ethan called it spreadsheets for feelings. My clients called it survival. On my second monitor, I pulled up Atlas Freight's public filings and matched them against what I'd taken photos of when Ethan left binders accidentally open on the dining table. Same quarter, different truths. A $487,000 innovation grant routed through a consultancy no one at Atlas had ever met. The consultancy's bank account shared a beneficial owner with a private trust. The trust belonged to Ethan. I'd hoped it would be nothing. I'd hoped I was being paranoid and petty and tired. The folder had stayed insurance because I wanted the marriage more than I wanted to be right. That night, I changed the folder name to evidence. I called Maya Chen. We met 5 years ago when she left the Attorney General's office to go private, the kind of lawyer who can see the shape of a case from a single invoice. She picked up on the second ring. Tell me it's not marital, she said. I'm better at corporate villains. It's both, I said. And you're going to hate how neat it is. I emailed her the packet. Within 10 minutes she called back, her voice the tone she used in court. Kickbacks disguised as pilots. Payroll for ghost contractors. If this touches interstate shipping and federal grants, it's not just corporate. It's criminal. Whistleblower? I asked. Two paths, she said. Board first, preserve internal remedies, then regulators. Or straight to the feds and the SEC, depends how scorched you want the earth. Earth already felt scorched. But I thought about the line workers at Atlas, people in fluorescent vests whose names Ethan never learned, whose bonuses depended on numbers that were lying to them. I thought about my clients who ordered from Atlas because I negotiated their rates in good faith. I thought about the place card waiting to call me the help. Both, I said. Board and regulators. But we time it. How fast? I looked at my calendar. Kate's engagement dinner was Saturday. The wedding was months away, but tonight was the first big display, a room full of donors, founders, city council friends. Ethan's favorite mirror. Monday morning, I said. I want his Monday to start with truth. We built the plan while I took notes in bullet points that steadied my hands. Timeline. Documentary proof. Chain of custody. An anonymous tip to Atlas's audit chair who, to my minor delight, happened to be one of my former client's husbands, a fair man with a boring tie and a spine. At midnight I closed the laptop and stood in the kitchen, barefoot on tile I'd argued to keep when Ethan wanted marble. The house was quiet except for Earl Grey breathing from the kettle I'd never actually used tonight. In the reflection of the window, I looked like a woman someone would mistake for help. Hair up, cardigan, tired. It's funny how quickly a role becomes a costume. It's funnier how fast you can take it off. Saturday came in Austin blue and sticky. Ethan left early for pre-dinner drinks, which meant he'd arrive staged and lightly perfumed, the way he liked to be seen. I arrived alone, as requested. I walked past a hedge of people I recognized by their watches. The ballroom glittered. The band tested a sax line. And there, right where it could do the most work, the place card waited. Nanny. I set my palm on the chair that wasn't mine and felt the empty space push back. The rest you know. The ring. The walkout. The air outside felt cooler than physics allowed. In the parking garage, I texted Maya, green light Monday. Then I texted myself a promise I could not forget. No one gets to decide your role by printing it in gold. I started the car. The plan had a pulse now. The mic squealed once when Ethan stepped to the lectern, like the room warning him, and then, right on schedule, my email hit the audit chair's phone. Monday 9:58 a.m. Austin Convention Center. The Southwest Supply Chain Conference smelled like coffee lids and new carpet, the kind of bright cold air that dries your eyes even when you're not crying. Ethics of Automation and Last Mile Delivery was the marquee keynote. Ethan loved that word, ethics, like he could own it if he said it fast enough. I sat 7 rows back on the aisle with a navy tote under my chair and a comm I didn't trust. My blazer was the kind you wear to be taken seriously by people who already decided not to. Down the row, a woman scribbled pilot vendors in a notebook big enough to pass for a shield. The screen behind Ethan displayed Atlas Freight's logo, Cobalt Arrow, minimalist font, the promise of speed. 2 seats to my left, Tom Alvarez, the audit chair, checked his phone. He's the boring tie kind of man I like in a crisis. He blinked at the screen, scrolled, blinked again. My packet was simple. 7 months of invoices mapped to Shell LLCs, a diagram even an uninterested director could follow, and chain of custody notes that would make Maya proud. Subject line, internal notice, vendor irregularities requiring immediate review. Ethan began. At Atlas, we believe the shortest distance between a community and its needs is integrity. He paused for applause. He got it. He always got it. He had the cadence down, the laugh on slide 3, the sigh on slide 9 where he said, we can do better. My phone buzzed in my lap. Maya, board counsel looped in. Perfect timing. Don't engage unless they come to you. I typed back without looking down, copy. I'm a ghost. I wasn't supposed to be here, but it felt right to watch the moment a story began to tell on itself. He was flawless for 8 minutes. The screen flashed case studies he'd stolen from staff I'd never heard him credit. A photo of a warehouse worker in a reflective vest, anonymous, smiling, carrying the weight he couldn't spell. Then he clicked to a slide about partner excellence, a collage of logos, and I felt the tiniest sting of satisfaction. There it was, Cobalt Ridge Consulting, pretty as a promise and as fictional as a soap character's resume. Alvarez coughed, turned halfway in his chair and looked straight at me. It wasn't accusatory. More like, I see you. I see this. He typed something quick. The general counsel, 2 rows ahead, checked her watch and wrote 3 words on a program, call emergency session. Ethan didn't notice the current shifting under his own boat. The next slide was safeguards and oversight. He smiled with all his teeth. We maintain strict vendor review to prevent conflicts and ensure public trust. I stood during Q&A. The moderator, a brisk woman in a blazer that could cut glass, pointed my way. You, with the Navy. I took the handheld mic, the kind that makes your heartbeat sound like a footfall in your ear. Vivian Reyes, independent operations consultant, I said. My voice was level enough to rest a glass on. A question about your vendor oversight. In your last 10Q, Atlas reported $487,000 to a pilot vendor called Cobalt Ridge Consulting. Can you speak to your process for vetting beneficial owners and preventing circular payment structures? I hadn't accused. I'd asked. But the room heard the capital letters anyway. Ethan laughed the way men do when their certain charm will mop up a spill. Love the inside baseball questions, he said, scanning for a friendly face. He found 3. Pilot programs let us move fast. Compliance audits run quarterly. Next question? The moderator held back the next hand. If you can answer the vetting piece, she pressed. Ethan's smile tightened. We have a team. He looked toward the general counsel for a lifeline. She didn't throw one. She was typing. In the row in front of me, a logistics reporter I recognized, Ray Delgado, Austin Ledger, circling something in her notebook, underlining so hard the paper wrinkled. Not now, I begged silently. Don't make this a story before the board does its job. When the session ended, the room did that conference thing it does, exhale, hum, shuffle toward coffee. I lingered by a wastebasket refitting a flimsy lid that never wanted to snap. Ethan came out of the green room faster than he should have if he'd been enjoying his compliments. His jaw was doing the grind he swore he didn't do. Viv, he said, like a warning and a plea. He'd perfected the art of asking you to be smaller without making it sound like a request. What was that? A question, I said. You said you love those. This is not. He stopped, recalibrated, lowered his voice. You embarrassed me. He had no idea. The board will be in touch, I said softly. Something flinched in his eyes. The words landed not as threat but as fact. He glanced over my shoulder, instinctively, the way an animal checks where the fire is. Alvarez was on his phone again, nodding, mouth a flat line. The general counsel stood, gathered her bag, and headed toward the exit with the pace of someone walking to a fire alarm. Ethan leaned in too close. We can talk about whatever you're upset about, he said through his smile. But not here. I stepped back. I could smell his cologne, the same one he'd doubled up on Saturday. You made it here, I said. I'm not moving this conversation for your comfort. He took a breath like he might say something true. Then his VP of Ops, Liam, appeared, wristband tight, eyes wider than the room. They need you upstairs, Liam said, not bothering with hello. Now. Ethan tried for a last word. Settled on, don't do something you can't undo. I thought of the ring clinking on china. Already did, I said. They were gone before I could name the look between them, fear, maybe, but also calculation, that compressed math of men counting exits. I found a cold coffee and a quiet corner behind a potted ficus with a tag that said please do not water. My phone buzzed. Maya, board convening at 1 o'clock. Council asked for your packet in native format. We're good. Me, Ray Delgado is here. Maya, we can't muzzle press, but we can starve rumor. No quotes, no color. Let the minutes speak. I wandered the expo floor to steady my hands. A booth was giving away tiny tape measures with slogans about efficiency. I watched a grad student try to balance 3 swag mugs in 2 hands. A man selling pallet sensors called me sweetheart and tried to explain the internet to me until I asked about his MAC address lists and he stammered into silence. In a hallway framed with photos of last year's award winners, I ran into Kate, Ethan's sister, tan, glossy, back from a Napa weekend you can smell on someone's sweater. She looked both ways before speaking, like my presence was contraband. Mom says you're making a scene, she said, but softly, like she wasn't sure she believed it. Did she also say I wasn't invited to dinner because I was staff? I asked. Kate's face did a small, painful fold. I thought it was a joke, she whispered. I told her it was mean. Mean was the point, I said. Joke was the cover. We stood there a second in the safe, neutral light of a hallway that had hosted 1,000 packaged conversations. She swallowed and looked at my left hand. Where's your ring? In the only place it ever made that much noise, I said. Kate nodded like she'd been waiting to hear that. If you need a place tonight, she said, surprising us both, I'll text you the code to my guest house. I think things are moving. They are, I said. And they'll move fast. At 12:43, my phone pinged. Calendar invite, Atlas board, special session, 1 p.m. Sent to directors and legal, copied to a private address I'd set up for this moment. At 12:59, another ping, document receipt confirmed. I stood by an escalator watching strangers step onto a moving belt and let it carry them somewhere they meant to go. Upstairs, a door closed. Downstairs, the expo band tried a sunny riff that didn't match the weather. I thought of Saturday's place card. Of all the ways we tell someone where they belong. Of all the ways we're wrong. The first phone lit up 3 rows ahead of me like a flare. Then another. Then the room turned into a sea of blue notifications blinking in an almost polite panic. I didn't need to look to know what it was. Rumor has a smell when it goes public, ozone and coffee and the sharp bite of fear trying to rebrand itself as strategy. My phone buzzed. Austin Ledger, exclusive, Atlas Freight's phantom vendor linked to executive trust. Byline, Ray Delgado. The photo at the top wasn't Ethan. It was the cobalt arrow of Atlas's logo, cropped tight so it looked like it was pointing at someone. I opened it anyway. Documents reviewed by the Ledger show $487,000 in payments to Cobalt Ridge Consulting, a vendor with no employees, no website, and a bank account ultimately tied to a private trust associated with Atlas COO Ethan Ward. Corporate counsel for Atlas declined to comment, citing a pending internal review. The article was clean. No purple. A simple timeline and a diagram that looked suspiciously like the one in my packet, except Ray's wasn't mine. She'd sourced public grant filings, state procurement lists, and a single invoice excerpt that could only have come from someone inside Atlas. My stomach dropped and settled in the same second. Good. It meant this wasn't just me. Across the aisle, Alvarez, boring tie, steady hands, exhaled once and stood. He didn't run. He moved like an adult going to turn off a leaking faucet. Ethan's panel had ended an hour ago, but he was still upstairs in this special session. The expo band tried valiantly to drown out the news with a brighter cover of a song about summer. Phones kept lighting. A woman in front of me whispered, "Oh God," into her palm. Maya texted, "We didn't leak." Ledger had other sources. "Hold your line." Me, "He'll say I did it." Maya, "He can say anything. We can prove what's true." By the time I made it to the mezzanine, everything had a new angle. The Atlas Freight booth, sleek white, cobalt accents, glossy trifold bragging about partner excellence, sat like a stage where the actors were late. The 2 reps behind the table stared at their tablecloth as if it might answer for them. A man in a vendor badge snapped a photo of the booth's logo and walked away fast. Ray found me near the escalator, not because I waved, but because she has a bloodhound's sense for where people are holding their breath. "Vivian," she said, question in my name. "Ray," I answered, matching her tone. I kept my hands visible, empty. "I won't ask if you're my source," she said. "I don't burn them, and I don't spook them. But I'll ask this. Do you want to say anything for the record about oversight?" "No," I said. "Not today." She nodded like the answer was both expected and respected. "More is coming," she said. "Internal chat logs. The kind you think you're smarter than." She glanced past me at the conference room hallway. "They'll try to frame it as a misunderstanding until a screenshot makes that impossible." The screenshot hit while she was still talking. It wasn't a Slack dump, nothing cinematic. Just one message, a single rectangle rotated across my screen, stamped Ethan Ward, 10:14 p.m. In a private channel with 2 directors and Liam. "Let's use Cobalt Ridge as a friendly for the pilot. We control timing that way. Keep invoices generic until we finalize." No one read the words out loud. You could feel them anyway. The space between friendly and control is where careers go to drown. A security guard with a discreet earpiece materialized by the upstairs door. 2 men walked past me toward the room. Atlas's PR lead, I knew her from holiday parties. She's good, but this is a flood, not a rumor. And a partner from a white shoe firm whose smile usually means bad news for someone else. My phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I let it buzz. It buzzed again, then stopped. A voicemail. Then my text thread with Ethan lit up. "We need to get ahead of this. I'm crafting a statement. I need you to deny you're behind it. You owe me that." I typed and deleted 6 different versions of "I don't owe you" a rewrite of reality. Then I did nothing. Silence is a statement if you let it stand long enough. Downstairs, the moderator from earlier stepped onto a small side stage, the impromptu press corral they use when somebody launches a unicorn. Her voice skimmed the crowd like a stone. "We've been asked to share a brief statement on behalf of Atlas Freight." Paper in hand, she read, "Atlas has initiated an independent review regarding vendor relationships. We take these allegations seriously. Mr. Ward will be stepping away from public events today to cooperate fully." Cooperate fully. I watched people hear the phrase and translate it in their heads. He's in trouble in executive. He's guilty in internet. He's human in family. He's fired in ops. A second alert popped in, Ledger update, internal chat suggests knowledge of vendor's ownership. Ray didn't look at me. She was already walking, because reporters move toward the heat while the rest of us decide whether to sweat. I stepped into the hallway just as the boardroom door opened. Ethan came out first, practiced face on, PR lead to his right, counsel to his left. For a half beat our eyes met. We've exchanged 1,000 glances that meant dinner or dry cleaning or a joke no one else heard. This one meant, I know what you know. And, I'm still convinced I can talk my way out of gravity. The press corral angled toward him. Microphones rose. Someone called his name, then the more dangerous one, Mr. Ward, did you direct payments to a vendor you control? He smiled the smile you wear at fundraisers. Atlas takes compliance seriously, he said. We move fast in pilots, but never at the expense of integrity. Did you use Cobalt Ridge as a friendly? Ray asked from the front, her pen already mid-air like she was drawing his outline. Context matters, he said. And that line is out of context. What's the context where paying your own trust is acceptable? Ray countered. PR cut in. We'll have a full statement later today. No more questions. Something shifted then, not in the room, in Ethan. A muscle in his jaw fluttered. He looked at me again, like maybe I held a rope he wanted to grab. Viv, he said, saying my name in public like an anchor, you know this isn't what it looks like. What does it look like? I asked. Explain it to me like I haven't read every invoice. The counsel stepped between us. Ms. Reyes, we advise you not to engage. I've been advised, I said. 4 months. The hallway hummed with the low-grade electricity of people deciding which side of a line is safer. Liam stood a few paces back, torn between loyalty and survival. He didn't make eye contact. He didn't have to. His silence was writing its own resignation letter. Another alert, Bloomberg syndication picked up Ledger story. Then, Trade Forum route talk thread trending, Cobalt Ridge equals Ward House LLC? Somebody on LinkedIn wrote a 600-word post about ethics in startups with a stock photo of a compass. The comments went feral in under 5 minutes. Kate texted me, Mom says it's slander. I told her slander has lawyers and receipts. You okay? Me, define okay. Kate, guest house code is 1129 if you need it. At 3:12 p.m. Atlas posted a square graphic with white text over Cobalt. We are commissioning an independent third-party review. The comments were a museum of denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance, schadenfreude. Someone posted a photo of an Atlas warehouse worker with the caption, how do I explain my bonus to my kids now? I went outside. The heat hit me full in the face. A delivery truck idled at the curb, driver elbow out the window, scrolling his phone. He caught my eye and lifted his chin like, you seeing this too? I lifted mine back. Yeah. Maya called. Board asked him to surrender devices, she said, voice trimmed, all business. He pushed back. They're moving to suspension pending investigation. We'll know in writing by end of day. Ray has the chat, I said. I know, Maya said. Which means the AG's office has it in about 9 minutes. We file the federal packet tonight. On the glass doors behind me, my reflection looked like someone I might trust. Hair pulled back, blazer unwrinkled, eyes tired but clear. I thought about the place card and the ring and the word friendly used like a weapon, and how sometimes the only way to be friendly is to tell the truth in public. Inside, a volunteer straightened the crooked Atlas freight banner so it hung even, then stepped back, thought better of it, and left it at an angle. The email lands like a gavel. Resolution of the board, special session, 3:41 p.m. CST. Subject lines don't usually have weight, but this one tilts my phone in my hand. I'm still in the convention center hallway under a poster about resilience in logistics, listening to the hum of carpet and air vents, when I tap it open. It's polite and lethal. Resolved, effective immediately, Ethan Ward is suspended from his duties as Chief Operating Officer of Atlas Freight pending completion of an independent investigation into vendor irregularities. Further resolved, Mr. Ward's access to company systems and premises is revoked. All company property shall be surrendered. Further resolved, a litigation hold is imposed on all relevant documents and communications. Deletion, alteration, or concealment of materials is prohibited. Further resolved, the Audit Committee engages Hallbrook & Keene, LLP as independent counsel. Interim operational oversight is assigned to CFO, acting COO. No adjectives. No mercy. The copy to all staff sends it from private to public in one click. Down the hall, the boardroom door opens. You can tell by pace who just got promoted and who just got cut. The promoted walk like gravity changed. The cut walk like they're borrowing time from the floor. Ethan emerges in the middle of a small flock. PR lead on his right, outside counsel on his left, Liam 2 steps behind, gray with the look of somebody counting the seconds until he can say, I was never in that chat. Security meets them before the press does. 2 badges, plain suits, the kind of men you don't notice until they're in your path. Mr. Ward, one says, voice neutral, we'll collect company property now. He gestures toward the messenger bag I bought Ethan for his last birthday because he said leather meant something in boardrooms. I have notes for the next panel, Ethan says, reaching to unzip. It's muscle memory, perform usefulness, control the narrative. Devices first, counsel says. Phone, laptop, access card. She uses the exact courtroom cadence that turns requests into laws. He hands over the laptop slowly, like it might dissolve if he moves too fast. The security guy plugs in a little black dongle, the kind you'd miss if you weren't watching. A green LED blinks twice. Checked, he says softly to no one in particular. The phone is mine, Ethan says. Personal. MDM enrolled, counsel replies. We'll trigger a selective wipe of company data and revoke tokens. Keep the handset. She nods at PR, who already has her phone out, thumbs moving. ITQ, ticket, wipe. 30 seconds later Ethan's screen pulses and goes dark, then relights with a white box, company access removed. He blinks, stuck on the part where objects obey someone else. Badge, security says. He fishes it from his jacket pocket, the cobalt arrow glossy under the fluorescent lights. He keeps his fingers on it a beat too long before letting go. The card makes that small plastic click when it hits the tray, a sound you recognize if you've ever watched someone trade power for property. The press cluster senses blood and wheels closer. Microphones rise like flowers on thin stems. Mr. Ward, are you suspended? Did you know Cobalt Ridge was your trust? Are you cooperating? The words thread together into a hum that sounds like a hive deciding whether you're nectar or threat. PR steps in. As stated, Atlas has initiated an independent review. Ray's voice cuts clean. Mr. Ward, did you use Cobalt Ridge as a friendly? She's not loud, she just doesn't waste syllables. Ethan glances at me then, only a second, but long enough to feel like old film running through a projector. A look that used to mean keys? Groceries? You good? Now it means, save me or watch me. I keep my face still. We are both done with roles that don't fit. He tries a smile. Fails. We pilot fast, he says, brittle. The board, he stops when counsel touches his sleeve. He swallows. No comment. Security is gentle but firm, the way nurses can be. This way, sir. They angle him toward a side elevator that smells like shipping crates and forgotten plans. His shoes squeak once on the vinyl. The elevator doors slide shut on a reflection of a man trying to hold shape without access to the systems that gave him one. My phone lights with 3 things at once. All staff email, Atlas family, we're writing with difficult news. The board has placed our COO on administrative suspension pending review. We value integrity and transparency. Please direct media inquiries to PR. A legal hold is in effect. Our work continues. It's the corporate equivalent of we're fine after the house just coughed smoke. A screenshot from Liam, the internal Slack announcement. Reactions stack under it like confetti no one ordered, face with open mouth, eyes, fire extinguisher. Channel names light up, #OpsSouth, #drivers, #watercooler. In #drivers, a dispatcher types, do Friday bonuses still land? No one answers for a minute that feels like an hour. A text from Kate, he's suspended. Mom says it's a witch hunt. I told her witches don't file exhibits. Are you safe? Me, safer than Saturday. Kate, come by tonight? Or not? I stalk the guest house anyway. I find a chair against a wall hung with sponsor logos and sit like I'm temporarily borrowing the ground. The room shifts back into conference life, coffee carafes being refilled, someone arguing about HDMI adapters, a guy in a branded polo despairing over a wrinkled banner. Normal reasserts itself like a habit. It's one of the strangest things about a crisis, how everything else refuses to stop being itself. Maya calls. It's official, she says. Board issued hold notices, engaged independent counsel, devices surrendered. That's your preservation. We file the federal packet at 6 p.m. Timestamped. The AG's office is likely opening a parallel inquiry. Fallout? I ask. Vendors will pause. Lenders will call. Employees will watch whoever steps up. You did the hard part, you brought daylight. Now we keep your name out of the tabloids and your clients supplied. As if on cue, my other line rings. Central Plains Pantry, the director whose budget spreadsheet lives in my head. I swap over. We saw the news, she says, panic threaded under practical. Our Wednesday delivery is Atlas. If it slips, we have empty shelves. I won't let it slip, I say, already pulling up the spreadsheet for contingency carriers I built in the nights when I couldn't sleep beside a man who snored through his own shortcuts. We'll reroute to Red Rock. Smaller fleet, better fill rate. I'll eat the delta if there is one. She exhales the way you do when gravity returns. Okay, thank you. Back on with Maya, I say. People will say I ruined him. People love a simple story, she says. We're telling the true one. A push alert hits. Atlas COO suspended pending probe. Syndication has turned the ledger piece into a chorus. The photo this time is a generic warehouse shot, pallets, forklifts, lights slanting like hope. In the comments, a driver named Rosa G writes, if you're reading this and you wear a vest for a living, we'll still move what needs moving. We always do. I want to find her and shake her hand. The side elevator opens again. Security returns without Ethan. One of them carries a small banker's box, cords, a hoodie, a laptop stand, a coffee mug that says move fast, ship right. The irony is so on the nose it could ruin a scene. Reality, apparently, has never been afraid of cliché. I stand. Not to gloat. To breathe. To mark the moment the story stopped being a theory and became a record. My phone vibrates one more time, a number I know by muscle memory. I let it go to voicemail. It transcribes anyway. Viv, please. You don't understand what they're capable of. We can fix this if you just. The rest is a smear of words that used to move me. They don't. Outside, the late afternoon heat has softened into something like grace. Delivery trucks thread through the loading bays as if nothing happened, which is true and not true at once. The city keeps eating. The city keeps needing. The work keeps being the work. I text Kate, might take you up on the code. Then Maya, file at 6. I'll be home. Then Central Plains Pantry, reroute confirmed. 8 a.m. delivery. I walk to the garage, heels clicking, badgeless and uninvited, and feel, finally, the absence of the weight I've been carrying for months. Not victory. Not even relief. Just the space where something used to hurt. The first truck missed a 4 a.m. gate time and the whole day leaned sideways. In dispatch, a single red dot on the lane map became 3, then 5, delays stacking like a bad hand. Not because drivers stopped driving, but because vendors froze, credit checks tightened, and a warehouse clerk somewhere was told not to load anything with Atlas in the reference until finance called back. By 4:12, my bridge spreadsheet was open on both monitors, 72-hour contingency plan I'd built in the nights Ethan snored through his shortcuts. SKUs, weights, temp requirements, lane histories, backup carriers, drop windows, pre-cleared alternates color-coded, green for go, amber for call, red for don't even try it. I copied Central Plains Pantry into the top row, flipped their Wednesday Atlas run to Red Rock, and ate the rate difference before my coffee cooled. At 5:03, my phone lit with a new name, Denise Patel, Atlas CFO, acting COO. I braced for spin. Instead I got a voice that sounded like a whiteboard, clean, focused. Ms. Reyes, I know you won't consult for us during an investigation, she said, beating me to the conflict of interest line, but I need your supplier contingency list for our nonprofit accounts. Food banks, clinics, kids stuff. Those are my clients too, I said. They stay fed. Then we're aligned. I heard keyboard clicks, fast and neat. We've locked Cobalt Ridge in the system, vendor status terminated. Legal hold notices issued. I'm rerouting essential lanes to audited carriers. If you've got a grid, I'll mirror it. I sent her a scrubbed version, no client-sensitive notes, just lanes, and vetted alternates, then watched her name pop into the shared doc as a green cursor that moved like a surgeon's hand. She killed 3 more pilot-only vendors with one clean stroke and added a bold line at the top. Priority, perishables, medical, schools. It was the first time that day I felt the floor under us hold. At 6:40, a new number, Assistant Attorney General Morales. The voice was courteous with edges. Ms. Reyes, we received a referral from the board's independent counsel and media reports. We'll be opening a matter on procurement fraud and grant misuse. We understand you may have documentation. I do, I said. You'll have whistleblower protections under state law, Morales continued, efficient and exact. No public commentary, no social, keep to counsel. Proffer session tomorrow, 9 a.m. AG's field office. Chain of custody on your originals? Documented to the minute, I said, picturing the thumb drive in my fire safe like a heart on ice. Good. A pause soft as a page turn. I appreciate you preserving everything. By 7:15, the employee side of the story started talking in the only way it could, screenshots forwarded from private Slack channels into my encrypted inbox. A compliance analyst I'd never met, flagged Cobalt Ridge in May, was told to hold until launch. An ops coordinator in San Antonio, invoices with no contact person. We were too busy to do the W-9 chase. And Liam, finally choosing survival over silence, here's what I wrote in March. Pilots need owners cleared by legal. I got noted. That was the whole response. Ray's follow-up hit the ledger at 8:02, inside Atlas, the Slack messages and the people who warned. No names, just roles and timestamps and a timeline that hurt to read because it was so ordinary. Errors don't break companies. Culture does. By 9 o'clock, lenders were politely panicking. Denise looped me on a call with their bank. Tight voice, tighter covenants, a request for a 48-hour cash forecast that would have taken Ethan 4 days. Denise did it in 35 minutes, screen-shared a rolling 13-week model, and negotiated a covenant waiver on the strength of hard numbers and the sentence "We are not our COO." At 10:22, a dispatcher in Lubbock pinged me directly. Someone had passed her my number. "We've got a school district pallet, breakfast cartons. Driver's staged but won't roll until he knows who's paying." "Routed under Nexus," I said, already texting Redrock to take the tail haul. "We'll pay. Bill me at end of day." "Why would you?" "Because kids don't get to skip meals for governance," I said. At 11:10, I drove to the East Side yard to watch the reroute happen with my own eyes. The lot floodlights poured gold over rows of trailers like a promise you can't quite cash. Drivers leaned against bumpers, sipping coffee from dented thermoses, trying not to stare at the cluster of managers near the office door. Rosa G., the driver whose comment under the news article I'd screen-capped, was there in a navy ball cap, hair in a low braid. She recognized me from nothing but the way I looked at manifests. "You one of the suits?" she asked, not unfriendly. "Different kind," I said. "I write the math that keeps your lanes from disappearing." She huffed. "Then you get it." Dispatch said my load was paused pending review. I told them my kid doesn't eat pending review. She lifted her chin toward the reefer unit humming behind her. "You moving this one?" "Redrock's taking the back half. You keep the front. Food bank by 9. School by 11. I've got your gate codes." Rosa studied me like I might be a rumor with legs. "You sound like someone who remembers what a cooler smells like when you open it late." "Like money burning," I said. She smiled with just her eyes. "That part." In the admin hall, a young HR rep stapled suspension notices to folders with a softness that told me she hated paper when it hurt. 2 analysts carried bankers' boxes out of IT. Coils of cords, extra keyboards, a tangle of chargers that looked like a nest built in the dark. A poster on the wall said "Move fast, ship right" in cobalt letters. Someone had put a sticky note under it, and check ownership. No one peeled it off. Back at my desk, Maya slid into our 9 a.m. proffer prep with bullet points and a calm that felt like ballast. Facts, dates, who, what, how you preserved, what you didn't touch. Don't speculate. "I don't have to," I said. "The invoices did that." "Good," she said. "Also, he sent a cease and desist through a new attorney. Claims defamation." "Of what?" I asked. "Arithmetic? He'll try to scare you into a settlement," she said. "We'll reply with a paragraph and a yawn. More importantly," she added, softening, "I'm proud of how you've handled today." I didn't say thank you. I just nodded because gratitude felt dangerous. If I stopped to feel it, I might sit down and not stand up again. At 11:58 p.m., my phone vibrated. "Rosa again." "Delivered." "Both." Even got the school kitchen manager to sign with a smiley face. She sent a photo of a clipboard, boxes checked, timestamps sharp, a cheap pen's ink pressed hard enough to dent the paper. The reefer unit steamed in the background like an animal that had run and won. I set the phone face down and listened to the apartment go very, very quiet. Somewhere out there, a warehouse was sweeping. Somewhere in a law office, a junior associate was tabbing exhibits. Somewhere in a nice house across town, a mother was insisting this was a witch hunt. And in my calendar, blocked out in clean blue, 2 words waited for morning, proffer, 9 o'clock. People think the scandal is the story. The story is the work that doesn't stop while a scandal learns its name. 6 months later, the Travis County Courthouse smelled like paper and old air. The kind of cool that keeps tempers from boiling over. Courtroom 7B wasn't grand, fluorescent lights, scuffed benches, a seal on the wall that made everything feel heavier, but it had the one thing conferences and boardrooms never truly do, a record. State of Texas versus Ethan Ward, the bailiff called, voice echoing off wood. "'Cause numbers 23 to 45,192 and 23 to 45,201. I sat behind the bar with Maya on my left and Denise on my right, both of them composed in a way that made me breathe steadier. Kate slipped in with a cardigan over a black dress and the kind of determined gentleness I'd learned to recognize as courage in soft clothing. Liam took a seat along the wall, hands folded like he'd practiced not fidgeting. Ray sat near the back, a notebook closed on her lap, no camera, no flourish, just a sharpened pencil waiting for facts. Assistant Attorney General Morales stood, charcoal suit neat, binder tabbed in colors that mirrored the state's case, fraud in procurement, theft over $300,000, money laundering under state statute. The SEC civil action would come later. Today belonged to Texas. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Morales said, turning to them like they were the only people in the room, you will see invoices paid to a vendor with no employees, no office, and one purpose: to move public grant dollars and company funds into the defendant's private trust. We'll show you how employees flagged it, how directors were bypassed, how a culture made speed an excuse to skip the truth. Defense counsel Klein rose smooth as a brand new tie. You will hear about pilots and growth, he said, hands open. About messy startups and good faith mistakes. You'll hear from an ex-spouse with an axe to grind. I felt the word ex land beside me like a paperweight. It was true now. The decree had been final a month earlier. No spousal support claimed. No marital assets fought over. The ring sat in my safe, not as a memory, but as a line item. Morales started where I knew he would, the numbers. Exhibit 12, bank statements tracing 6 payments labeled Cobalt Ridge Consulting, pilot services into a trust identified in long, careful language. Ward House Revocable Trust, beneficial owner, Ethan Ward. The forensic accountant testified with the dry clarity of a man who lives where money does. His finger moved down the page, month by month, deposit by deposit. No drama. Just flow. Exhibit 22, chat logs. The rectangle projected onto a screen. Let's use Cobalt Ridge as a friendly for the pilot. We control timing that way. Keep invoices generic until we finalize. Liam identified the channel, the context, the lack of replies demanding legal. Klein objected, foundation, and the judge overruled, his voice even, a metronome for temper. Denise took the stand with the stillness of a metered line. We have a vendor vetting process, she said. Cobalt Ridge had no W-9 on file, no verified address, no contact other than a mailbox. My team's flags were deferred. That will not happen again. Her gaze didn't move to Ethan. It stayed on the jury, on the women and men who would decide whether the story in the documents was a crime or just a mess. When Morales called me, the defense leaned forward like a dog hearing foil. I swore in, sat, smoothed my skirt, and answered questions with spine and decimals. Ms. Reyes, how did you discover the payments? Invoices left exposed. A mismatch between public filings and internal ledgers. What did you do? Preserved. Documented. Consulted counsel. Notified the audit chair via counsel. I did not contact press. I did not alter records. I did not access systems I wasn't entitled to. Why did you act? Because nonprofits and clinics rely on Atlas's promises. Because grant dollars are not a personal runway. Because people invest shouldn't pay for someone else's shortcuts. Klein stood for cross with a half smile. Ms. Reyes, you and Mr. Ward are divorced. Yes. And you filed for divorce after an incident at a family event. I filed after a pattern. Were you angry? Anger is not an accounting principle, I said, keeping my voice level. Numbers don't change to match feelings. A few jurors smiled before they remembered not to. He tried motive. He tried press. He tried to imply I'd orchestrated the leak. Morales objected, argumentative, and the judge sustained. Klein pivoted to administrative confusion. Pilots can be messy, Ms. Reyes. I let the question hang and answered the truth. Messy isn't anonymous. Messy still files a W-9. Rosa took the stand near day's end, not because drivers usually figure in white-collar trials, but because Morales wanted the jury to understand operational harm without graphs. We delivered anyway, she said, braid over one shoulder, voice steady. But we shouldn't have had to scramble. People eat breakfast at the same time whether a COO is on a suspension or not. On the morning Ethan could have testified, he didn't. Klein rested without him, a tactical decision that read like the only one left. Closing felt less like theater and more like the last pages of a manual. Morales walked the jury through each element, intent, benefit, concealment, clicking boxes that had been waiting to be clicked since the first invoice cleared. Klein asked them to give chaos the benefit of the doubt. The jury was out for 7 hours and 11 minutes. When they filed back in, one juror glanced at me the way people do when they recognize someone who carried a heavy thing a long way. On count 1, fraud in procurement, guilty. On count 2, theft over $300,000, guilty. On count 3, money laundering, guilty. Sound drains out of a room differently when the verdict is a chord. Kate pressed her fingers to her mouth and then to my shoulder. Ethan looked down at his hands like they might explain him. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. Impact letters were read without venom, Denise's, measured, a nurse from the clinic, practical, Rosa's, 1 page exactly. The judge's voice didn't waver. 36 months in state custody. 10 years debarment from state contracts. Restitution in the amount of $487,000 to Atlas Freight and $118,000 to the state of Texas for grant funds misused. Financial disclosure required. Probation tail to follow. Klein asked for a stay. Denied. The bailiff's hand hovered near Ethan's elbow. He turned once, not to me, but toward the door like the map of the exit had changed. The cuffs didn't clink, the leather loops were quiet. Everyone always expects noise at the end. Sometimes justice is soft. Outside the courthouse, heat rose in ripples off Congress Avenue. The sky was the indifferent blue of a city that keeps moving. Ray passed me without raising her recorder. "You don't owe me a quote," she said, almost kindly. Denise squeezed my arm and walked toward a call she would take from a loading dock. Morales shook my hand like you do when acknowledging a job done, not a favor owed. I reached into my bag and touched the edge of the place card I'd carried in a zip pocket all through trial. Nanny in gold script, the joke that turned into a compass. I didn't frame it. I didn't throw it away. I kept it as a boundary stone, a reminder that rooms that call you small are the ones you outgrow. Back at my office, the bridge spreadsheet sat open, color blocks shifting from amber back to green. My calendar pinged, vendor review with Denise, new guardrails. Another, pantry check-in, month-end audit. The work kept being the work. People will tell this story like it ends here, at a verdict. But I know better. Endings are just places you decide the next part can start from a chair you chose, at a table you built, with your name on a plain white card that says exactly who you are.